Thank you for joining the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston for our weekly online ministers forum. I'm the Reverend D. Scott Cooper, Assistant Minister of Congregational Life, filling in for Dr. Bosson, who is away this week. These programs are conversations with community organizers, artists, scholars, religious leaders, and others about how we can collectively address the present crises. Their purpose is to offer members of our community and all who wish to join us online science-based resources. Today, I'm joined by Robyn Stout, Executive Director of UBarU Camp Retreat Center near Caryville, Texas. UBarU is located on 142 rugged acres in the Hill Country and serves Unitarian Universalist congregations and other groups for religious retreats and educational programs. We'll talk about the center and how things have changed since the pandemic. Robyn began as Executive Director in October of 2017 after she and her family had attended camps and retreats there for several years. Robyn brings leadership experience as a UU church volunteer and personal and professional experience as a mother, wife, and physical therapist. Robyn facilitates meaningful and enjoyable camp experiences to all those who come to UBarU. For those of you who are with us on the Ministers Forum for the first time, let me say a few words about Unitarian Universalism. We're a religious tradition that celebrates the possibility of goodness within each human heart, the transformative power of love, and the clarifying force of reason. We believe that we need not think alike to love alike. We hope that you find these forums a source of connection, hope, and clarity. So, Robyn, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here, Scott.
Great. So, I don't believe a lot of Texas UUs even know that we have a great retreat center in the Hill Country, let alone that there's like a dozen UU retreat centers across the country. So, if you would describe UBarU and how the Unitarian Universalists came to acquire the center.
Well, as you said, UBarU is a camp and retreat center in the Hill Country, and we're in Gillespie County, where originally Bob and Catherine Wallman had purchased the land as kind of a retirement center for themselves and their Quaker friends. And they built some of the buildings that we still use today, but over time they were unable to sustain their community. And so at that point, they created what's called a Quaker Clearness Committee. And that committee first offered the 142 acres to the small church in Kerrville. And they declined the generous offer because they were quite a small congregation. So the Clearness Committee then went to Austin and offered the First UU Church of Austin the gift of the land. They formed a foundation and gladly accepted the gift and formed a 501c3 not-for-profit foundation called the Unitarian Universalist Friends Retreat Foundation. And that makes reference to the Quakers and the UUs in the name, which really I think speaks to the sense of stewardship and community that's been part of the land for a very long time. I think it's important to say that the UBarU mission is to provide a welcoming, peaceful place to gather for spiritual, educational, and recreational purposes in harmony with our Unitarian Universalist principles and the land. And also that UBarU is run by myself and also a board of 15 UUs that represent congregations from across the state, from Dallas to Corpus Christi and from Kerrville to Houston. And additionally, UBarU is supported by the people that use the land, that come to our events, that make donations and rent the cottages. We're not funded by the region, the UUA, or any particular district.
Well, that's great. It's so interesting that the Quakers originally had it and then reached out to us. That's such an interesting history. Now, I'm going to ask you in a few minutes about some of the newer additions to the Camp and Retreat Center. For people who have never been there, just sort of describe the lay of the land and some of the some of the buildings and the landscape that people can walk. The thing I'm thinking of is there's more than one labyrinth. There's just lots of really wonderful things to explore and see.
I agree. We have a hidden labyrinth that a lot of folks don't know about. We call it the Little Labyrinth. I don't know who built it, but it's a little experience if you want to just meditate or walk a little bit. So the Quakers built straw bale houses, which are kind of a unique concept that really brings community together. We have 2 cottages that were built by the Quakers and finished by the UUs, and then so one's called Hermitage House, one's called Sojourner House, and then there's a more standard frame construction house we call the Ranch House. And the Quakers, we're not on a river, so our water is from a well that was dug in the 40s. And there's a large stock tank associated with that well, where once upon a time the cows and the other critters that lived out there were able to sustain themselves in our kind of high desert environment that we have at UBarU. We have a lot of cactuses and, of course, the juniper trees that we've been lucky enough to have HEB environmental funding to help mitigate some of those invasive juniper trees that are very common, unfortunately, in the hill country. It's warm, but it's also cools off better at night than, say, like in Houston, where I'm at, or maybe even in Dallas as well. So, and then also the Quakers built the meeting house, which is very much a Quaker building where we gather as they gathered to eat. We have a commercial kitchen and gathering spaces, and then of course there's lodging. About 5 years ago, a capital campaign and the generosity of folks across the state allowed us to build what's called the Dwight and Mari Brown Center, which consists of 4 bunkhouse suites, where there are private rooms as well as bunk beds, so we can accommodate adults and children and family units, and for our many events at UBarU.
Yeah, the first time I came was with a youth group from Dallas, and the new buildings hadn't been built yet. The Brown Center, and we all stayed in the meeting house. But since then, like you said, those gorgeous residence buildings have been built with the bunk beds and the private rooms, and they're really, really nice. Also with the youth groups, I would enjoy, you mentioned the stock tank. That's also, if I'm not mistaken, the same stock tank where we would go and take a dip in the water, use it as our swimming pool with the youth group.
Yep, that's right. It's a big round cement pond. If you ever watched the Beverly Hillbillies, theirs was a real pool. Ours is a former stock tank that we've lined and holds water. And what's been fun with that is one of our new board members is a biologist and a naturalist, and she has a camera trap that she's placed along the trough, because the cows can't get to the top of the tank. They drink out of the trough. And so we've put water in the trough, and the various critters who live at UBarU have come and tripped our camera trap. And so Paula has thousands of pictures of wildlife and birds and other critters that have come to get a drink at the UBarU stock tank / pool. And that's one of the offerings that we've added as we've chosen to stay home and protect ourselves and not gather in groups together at camp, is this e-content, I'm calling it, where we're gathering in Zoom spaces and hearing various presentations. And one that's been pretty popular has been seeing these camera trap pictures that Paula has caught, as well as things like contemplative spiritual practices sessions, which was going to be an in-person event for us, but we moved it online pretty successfully, thanks to some great folks in the Fort Worth area. And so the wildlife, for example, is something we've been able to offer for families. We canceled our summer camps and have did some virtual summer camp content via Zoom, and have offered a wide range of content for hopefully a wide range of audiences.
Well, you mentioned the summer camps. Not only do you host youth groups from different churches, like when I first came there, but I've also been there as a chaplain for one of your camps for youth from all over the state, from different churches from all over, when they come. So perhaps a lot of people don't realize that you host those, and their kids can come to, and their youth can come to these camps every year, and they're really great. So why don't you talk about both those and some of the retreats and conferences for adults that you have?
Yeah, thanks so much for being our chaplain, Scott. I appreciate the help we get from chaplains across the area. The kind of the way I look at it a little bit is sometimes these camps are really where a lot of our youth across Texas have the opportunity to be in a pretty intentional covenantal community. Our camps are for a week, and they're based by age or grade of the kids that come, and we offer indoor activities and outdoor activities, from swimming and archery, arts and crafts. We have brought in local folks to share their expertise or their passion for a particular project. We have a chaplain. The kids are involved with worship services, as well as we have a camp meeting every night where we practice creating a covenant and then talking about if we've lived into our covenant over the course of the last 24 hours and what we might need to do different. And I really find that a unique experience as a UU, having attended churches and adult groups for a long time. Often we make a covenant and we aren't that great at coming back to it,
right,
and bringing ourselves back in a covenant. I think that's a really powerful experience for the adults that have volunteered to be our counselors at camp, as well as the kids. I also think it's a valuable opportunity for the kids to hopefully feel like they're in an inclusive environment. My son first went to camp, and one of his experiences I think that's pretty powerful is there was a kid there who was gender non-binary, and my son was a junior counselor, which is a youth that's slightly older that's there to gain some leadership experience and have the opportunity to work with the kids. And they were very supportive in helping this camper make sure they had a clean compression shirt for each day. You know, it's June and July and it's quite hot out there, so clean clothes are important. And to me, that just really symbolizes hopefully the level of inclusion that we want to have, that we accept people where they're at and support them in their spiritual journey or their spiritual in their journey of really who they are, and embracing everyone in their different places and spaces. I think we try and do that as UUs. I think it's a really powerful experience to really create a space for a week where those kind of geeky kids, which is what mine are, can hopefully feel like, you know, I'm surrounded by my geeky friends, or I'm a non-binary kid, and it's okay to be non-binary in this space, or wherever they're at. Did you find that when you were at camp? Do you think we strive to do that at any rate?
Oh, definitely. I think so often kids find themselves at school or where they live so often where a lot of times they can't totally be themselves, and they're not with a group that what I like to call their tribe, where people in kind of the same mindset are there with them, who are more accepting. And that's one of the really cool things about, I think, these UU places where youth can congregate, as well as some of the rallies and that type of thing. Plus, a lot of youth are from small UU churches with only a couple of other kids like themselves. And this gives them an opportunity to see, oh my gosh, there's a bunch more UU kids out there, a lot more out there, who are like me and accept me. And yeah, I'm different, but there's a lot more different like I am out there. So yeah, it's a great thing, I think.
I think for some of the kids, it's the closest thing they might have to going to church.
Yeah.
Because they come from a small community and there may not be an RE program, for example. And hopefully we also give adults the chance to come and be in an intentional, inclusive space as well. Like you mentioned, we do adult retreats as well that might be centered around something like spiritual practices, or we have men-aligned retreats and women-aligned retreats and fiber arts. Also, family camp, where family units of all shapes and sizes gather at camp, and we for example, we celebrate the coming of the new year. Maybe we might do some winter-based rituals. We also do a family camp at Memorial Day weekend, and again, give folks an opportunity to kind of welcome the summer at UBarU. So hopefully the offerings, there's something there for everyone. And clearly you can come alone. We have cottages that, like I said, the Quakers built for us, or we finished and we're now maintaining, where personal retreats are certainly invited. And in these COVID times, we've had a number of families or quarantines come out and just be on campus to get away from their typical routine or what have you, and you can do your own cooking, and so it's a very low risk kind of retreat opportunity right now, particularly for folks who are particularly concerned about gathering in any kind of group.
I didn't think about that, but what a good idea, because you could reserve one of those cottages and go out there with your family and be in a new and different, really nice place to meditate and hike and do all sorts of things, and not be around a lot of other people. So what a great idea.
Yeah, we're not too far from a number of state parks as well. South Llano and Enchanted Rock, Garner State Park are all very beautiful. The other thing that UBarU has is, as my shirt kind of shows, we're a dark sky park, an IDA certified dark sky park. So the stargazers certainly come out. We have astronomers. We do a star party where folks can leave the city lights behind, and I think it's a different level of connecting with the space around you when you can look up into the sky and really see the immenseness, or think you see the full immenseness of kind of what's out there. So that kind of leads us to the other piece, which is we do have an observatory that was built in 2017 with some donations from a fellow in San Antonio, and that has given us the opportunity, like I said, to offer these star parties. And when we have other groups on campus, the astronomers come out and they train those telescopes to distant objects or to planets even, or even the moon, depending on the conditions of the particular evening. And I think that is arguably a spiritual practice for a lot of people, to be able to see those sorts of things that you can't see when you're not out at UBarU or in a darker space.
Oh, totally. I think that's totally a spiritual practice. And I'm glad you brought up the observatory. I was going to ask about that because I want people to realize that it's not like it's these little telescopes that you buy from a science a science shop,
right,
and set up on the top of a hill. This is a big honking telescope in a building where they roll back the roof, and man, it can really see some stuff. It's fascinating, and Indeed, it is, because you are far away from many big cities. It's a dark sky, and you're up on the top of that hill, and it's just a gorgeous canopy of stars. I, I, I don't see how it could not be a spiritual practice. Actually, you could lie on your back up there for days or nights, really, and just take all that in.
For sure. Yeah.
Also, up there next to it is they've also built a ham radio station.
Yeah, the same donor was generous enough to provide the funds to build a ham radio shack, and both of these things are really intended to be educational opportunities. Again, most of the people live in Texas. We live in big cities, and so kids having the opportunity to be out at night and to see the dark sky, and then to understand that in the ham shack, there's more than one way to communicate. It's not just about your cell phone, but there are these other technologies that are quite a bit older, but pretty amazingly powerful to a licensed ham radio operator that they can make international calls if they're licensed to do that, and that is pretty powerful. One night we were out there, and the International Space Station went over UBarU. It was just fortunate that the lighting was right, that we could still see it, and it was mentioned that if you knew that was coming, you could talk to the International Space Station if you were a ham radio operator in our radio shack. And that was kind of cool. Like, I didn't know you could do that. So now I'm like, one of these days, we need to make a plan and see if we could actually talk to the ISS. Wouldn't that,
totally.
That would be cool. Yeah. So in addition, so the ham radio shack is in part like an emergency communication center. We have solar panels and batteries available to supply energy to the ham radio shack to communicate. Not just in an educational way, but if for some unfortunate reason that we had to, if our ham radio operator, because it's not something just you and I can just pick up and do, needed to communicate to the people in the community or beyond. So it's kind of multi-tiered to teach kids in part about communication and broadening hopefully all of our views of what that means, and thinking about the sky and so much beyond our kind of immediate presence with the observatory and the ham radio shack. I also wanted to invite folks to check out our website, because there's a really cool short video taken by John Phelps, who's an astrophotographer, of our observatory. So if you go to www.ubaru.org, and then if you go to About UBarU, and choose the observatory, there's I think it might be 5 minutes. And he took some really cool drone footage of the retractable roof and the space around it and everything. So I would invite you to check that out if you haven't seen it. In this COVID situation, we have done a number of recordings of virtual star parties, and those videos are available at our YouTube channel. And you'll find that link also at the ubaru.org website. And some of this astrophotography can be viewed. Just a good old video of a campfire too is there. So it kind of spans what you can do at UBarU, from sitting around the campfire singing songs and talking to yourself or your friends, to looking at the rings of Saturn or the moons of Jupiter as they cast a shadow on the planet as they move around Jupiter, just like Galileo saw.
Wow, that's amazing. And like you said, I don't think most people, let alone younger people, have had a chance to experience that. So it's a wonderful thing that it's there for us to take advantage of. Mm-hmm. Once 6 months or so ago, when this pandemic hit, obviously people going to camp is going to look different. People having live retreats is going to look different. So what is you just mentioned having star parties virtually. What are some of the other things you're doing to keep interest in UBarU going while the pandemic is happening?
We've done a number of Zoom content programs, and those are ongoing, and you can find information to join us. It's free programming. They're often only about an hour to an hour and a half in length, and range from a basically a worship service every Friday night with our board member who's a minister in Austin, to the wildlife shows, virtual star parties, and we're trying to keep people connected with UBarU. We've also added a young adult component, so folks kind of in the range of 18 to 35, that is the typical definition of young adult. No one's gonna police that, but trying to create some connection for that particular segment of folks, for example. So just trying to keep people connected with camp, and then when we're on campus, as we look ahead to events in the future, there will be fewer people on campus at any one time, and we'll take all the recommended precautions of wearing masks and physically distancing and hand washing and making some meal prep accommodations, and definitely doing more things outside, which I think is agreed upon is a safer way to go as well. So we did have a star party, and it went quite well. It was what we called a hybrid event, where we had folks at home that joined us for the presentations, and we had some folks on site that like brought their telescopes, and they looked through our telescopes and enjoyed the dark sky. Stayed in our cottages, or spreading out folks in terms of lodging and lodging people that are families, for example. So we're looking ahead to a winter family camp, which will be over the new year. So personally, I'm looking forward to 2021, maybe feeling a little bit better than 2020 has mostly felt, and partaking in the darkness and understanding and learning from the quieter, cooler times of the year, and celebrating with each other, at least a few others, at a safe distance, what the future might bring. So kind of a balance of staying connected with trying to do stuff well in our new paradigm. We're planning, what summer camp for the kids might look like. How do we do that safely and in such a way to continue to speak to our values of learning and teaching and being in an intentional covenantal community together, and doing it well.
I want people to know how they can find out more about you, and even if they'd like to donate, so that we can be sure and keep a great retreat center with UU values here in Texas. So please tell us what your website is and how they can get on your mailing list.
Perfect. And it's UBarU is here. It's the letter U because we're Unitarians, and a bar, like it used to be a brand, but the word bar and then another U for our Universalist heritage. And we're .org because we're a 501c3 not-for-profit organization. And you will find information there about our e-events, our online events, as well as Winter Family Camp. And if you want to rent a cottage for yourself or for a small group from your church, then you would just email me. If you wanted to join our mailing list, you can email me as well. And I'm at director@ubaru.org, and that's also on the first page of our website. You can click on make a payment or donation, and we would be happy to take your donation. The other way you can get involved with UBarU is become a member, which means you make a regular donation instead of just a periodic donation. And at least for the next almost 4 years, your membership will get you in line to possibly make a reservation for the 2024 solar eclipse, which will be coming through the hill country in April. And we will be in that band of total occlusion where the sky gets kind of dark, and you get those kind of interesting characteristics of being in a full solar eclipse. And it'll go right up through UBarU in the middle of April on 2024. So these can be really popular things that people want to be part of. And so we're planning like a whole weekend of astronomical events and other things that are kind of related to that sort of interesting science. One of the presentations that we had at our star party was about the eclipse and about the sun, and it's quite interesting. It's also available at our YouTube channel, and so that's what membership would do. In addition to just supporting us financially, maybe it's really important for you to be in person in the Hill Country in 2024. So yeah, www.ubaru.org. That's us.
I didn't realize an eclipse was coming up. I have a friend who travels the world chasing eclipses, and I'll have to be sure she knows about your event. I also didn't know about your YouTube channel. I'll have to tune in to see all the animals that come at night to the stock tank trough to drink.
The critters are not on a video, but we're planning another Zoom session of showing those photos, and maybe I can get my skills together and remember to hit record on that one and add it to our YouTube channel. But yeah, there's some kind of fun content there. Hummingbirds and the fire and then the stars. A lot of things that really try and, that are kind of unique to UBarU. There's videos of everything on YouTube. So hopefully, we've stayed in our lane, as they say. But yeah, you can kill a little bit of time at the UBarU YouTube channel.
Thank you so much, Robyn. I thought I knew a lot about UBarU, but I learned a lot during this conversation, so thank you.
Thank you for the invitation, Scott. It's been fun.
If you found this video to be helpful, please consider joining us for our weekly worship service. It's posted online each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. and features music and prayers, in addition to a sermon. Dr. Boston will be preaching this week. Thank you to our staff for making this video possible. It was produced by Christian Holmes. Alma Vizcara assisted with the editing. We will see you all online soon and in person as soon as it is possible for us to gather again. And please remember that no matter how isolated you feel, we are all in this together.